Chapter 651. Owner of Wisdom 5. Kwang, I am torn apart once again. Not like this. Pain pulls me out from the depths of delusion. Questions about what I truly am, whether I am really an ender or not, all of it washes away from the agony. In the end, pain itself is the most primal problem. Things like identity can wait until I solve this first. The strike from the underworld delivers the most fundamental type of pain I've ever experienced. Still, now I can hear the sound, and the way I die is becoming clearer and clearer. The moments of me being torn apart and killed are becoming more vivid. Just one step further, if I reach Araya consciousness, I'll be able to perceive that attack. That is when it will truly begin. I refocus the consciousness that has reached untainted. The world narrows, and Mount Sumeru begins to appear as a collection of lines and circles. The lines form a net as the principles of Mount Sumeru, and the circles become the knots of the net, serving as the intersections that make up the entire structure. Countless nets tangle and intertwine, forming a single inverted cone. Keying, I connect to the Akashic records once again. Immediately afterward, I discover the method to swiftly reach Araya consciousness. I see. Araya consciousness is the 8th level of the soul. A true mark of existence, positioned even higher than Mana's consciousness. It is the consciousness referred to as the 8th consciousnesses. To reach the 8th consciousness, it can't end with simply clearing my mind. Clearing the mind is merely the preparation phase to reach the 8th consciousness. After turning myself into a mirror and making it clear, everything reflected in that mirror. I must make all of it enter the same state as myself. Wu Wang. Upon the net, I become a single sphere. More precisely, I take the form of a hypersphere that transcends all dimensions. I become one of the circles that form Mount Sumeru. I am a circle, and at the same time, a knot in the net that weaves together the principles of Mount Sumeru. Above the knots where the lines of the net intersect, individual circles emerge and connect. I realize that all of these are the souls of different beings. I see, our souls are all connected by the net that is the world. Sensing the Indra's net that links us together, I begin to reflect the souls connected to me. All those with whom I've exchanged hearts. The net of Indra is no ordinary net. Its countless lines unfold in a hyperdimensional form, and the threads of the net, which embody the principles of the world, are directly connected to all the connections I have formed until now. I begin to reflect those connections through the mirror of my heart. I see, though I seem to be repeating the same enlightenment over and over again, each time it strikes anew. I am not made of myself alone. I keep realizing this anew every time. The 8th consciousness. That is, the reason why in order to reach Araya consciousness, I must also clear the hearts of my connections is because of this. My existence is never something formed by me alone. Being formed from countless others passing by, intersecting, and overlapping with me, that is the I that is formed. I am not merely an object, but a kind of collection. Yes, a collage made of connections, that is the true nature of what I am. Is it because I connected to the Akashic records? For the first time in a long while, the language of Earth comes to mind. And it is the moment I realize it. An ominous truth begins to crawl up from deep within my chest. It is something ominous about my essence. I'll face this a little later. It feels like a terrifying truth. Like the obsidian devil heavenly King Hong Fan, may emerge. But rather than confronting that truth now, unprepared, I decide to reach Araya consciousness first and face the truth afterward. For now, the immediate task is to fill the hearts of all the connections tied to me with impermanence, bringing them to the same level of untainted as myself. Wing, even as my physical body continues to die over and over. In this unending pain, I begin to display a surreal level of concentration. But this concentration isn't something I consciously generate, rather, my essence is elevating my focus from deep within, as a way to ignore the ominousness that I am sensing. It seems I am not yet capable of withstanding this ominousness. The way I reached the domain of untainted was through impermanence. Not like Hyeon Mu, who severed all things, or Kim Young-hoon, who acknowledged all possibilities, but the way of impermanence which fills all things to create emptiness. Therefore, to reach Araya consciousness, I must bring all beings whom I have connections with to the domain of untainted. And it must be in the same way I did. I must fill the hearts of everyone who has exchanged hearts with me with the impermanence sword, temporarily raising them to the same level as myself. That is the method to reach Araya consciousness. Wu Wang, the net I reside upon begins to ripple. The hearts of impermanence originating from me begin to enter all the beings connected to me. Ah, In that moment, I confirm my immortal art settling into all of my connections, and at the same time, I experience my consciousness expanding infinitely. And just as my consciousness is about to truly reach infinity, Pete, in that instant, I realize I have arrived somewhere. This place is. I recognize it instantly. The origin of creation I once reached with Kim Young-hoon. The outskirts of the Akashic records. It is the space that transcends all realities. And, together with him, I gazed upon an immense baby before us. A baby? No, that's not it. It is not merely a baby. It seems to be the body of someone. And I realize that this someone's body is not complete. That someone's body is endlessly being created. And its bones, blood vessels, and organs are, astonishingly, familiar to me. Ah, I finally understand. The blood vessels of that being are being created in real time, and within them, I see something familiar. That being's blood vessels are a river of scenes where the taiji endlessly continues. That's right. The river of scenes I trace back each time I regress is just a single vein within that something. Single quote. So that's what it is. Only now do I understand the principle behind my regression. So you were all, still alive. And, I understand why I have reached this space and perceived that metaphysical being. It is because I am currently accessing the Araya consciousness through the Akashic records, connecting with all my connections. That's right, all connections. In other words, I am connected not only to the connections formed in this cycle, but to all those I formed across all the cycles. So you all, still exist. If I currently possessed a physical body, I would probably be shedding tears. In this very moment, I completely grasp the principle of my infinite regression. In the first place, I could not comprehend it until now because I failed to understand the shape of time. When I die and flow backward through the blood vessel to repeat time, a new blood vessel forms and begins to create the body of that existence. The time that my existence lives through and all its possibilities are simply a part of the process of creating that existence. And as I watch this, I come to understand the principle behind how those of heavenly venerable rank perceive regression. If mortal beings are merely a single current in the flow of flesh flowing through the veins of that existence, then the heavenly venerables, no, broadly speaking, all beings who possess a seat, are as if they've received that being's soul. However, those who have not completely seized their seat become immortal lords, and even if they have received part of that being's soul, they are split into multiple existences by the differentiation of space-time. But the supreme deities and heavenly venerables, who have completely seized their seat, are entirely unaffected by the splitting of space-time. They merely forget previous timelines for a moment, as the soul and their accumulated possibilities shift into the newly born blood vessels, the timelines created through my regression. Among them, the heavenly venerables. That is, beings who borrow the power of the three grand laws, possess a faint link to the Baihui point of that something, enabling them to resist regression even more powerfully. As I grasp the principle of infinite regression, I am overwhelmed with an indescribable surge of emotion, and I compose this swelling heart with the impermanence sword and begin to send it to all my connections existing in every timeline. To some, it may be a fleeting inspiration. To others, perhaps a definitive signal that I still live. But what is certain is that this rising swelling heart within me has been undeniably delivered to every one of my connections. And I succeed in pulling the consciousness of all those connected to me, even if just for a moment, to the same domain of untainted as me, elevating the intersection of connections that is me entirely into the domain of purity. Wu Wang, I once again descend from the origin of creation and half open my eyes. In this moment, I have fully reached Araya consciousness. Wu Wang, ripple, the net sways. I confidently sit in a lotus position above that net. The net hums with countless vibrations, and by sensing those vibrations, I realize I can see directly into the innermost thoughts of the being standing before me. With a completely clear heart, I gaze at the being before my eyes. The heavenly venerable of the underworld, Bonghua, is smiling at me. Congratulations. You have reached the same eye level as me. So this is Araya consciousness. That's right. All of us heavenly venerables are always seeing scenes like this. Speaking eye to eye with the heavenly venerable of the underworld, I continue gazing at the endlessly rippling net. On the countless knots of the net hang the souls of the innumerable living beings, existing merely in the forms of simple circles or hyperspheres. Above this endless net, the only ones truly maintaining one's forms are Bonghua and me, just the two of us. The other heavenly venerables, I don't see them. You can probably feel it yourself, but maintaining this consciousness is not easy. Aside from me, the rest only enter this domain by focusing when necessary. I suppose. Indeed, that's how it is. Maintaining Araya consciousness and properly preserving form above Indra's net is, frankly, overwhelmingly difficult. Soon, I will likely lose focus. By the way, how many times have you killed me so far? I ask, while perceiving myself below Indra's net. The me endlessly dying and reviving in the real world. Around 4 billion times. Seems like you reached Araya consciousness just exactly within the expected time frame. Is that so? That's a relief. When I reached the domain of untainted, the strikes of the underworld were painful, but now that I have risen to Araya consciousness, the pain rather fades away. To be exact, it's become meaningless. Then, watch closely. I look at the consciousness of the underworld, then gaze again at the Gandhara of the underworld beneath Indra net. The Gandhara moves. The front paw of a fierce beast, in the form of a half-human, half-beast, strikes down on the small me. Then, my physical body is immediately torn from Indra's net, and every principle composing me is dismantled. However, as soon as the underworld exerts her will, my principles are instantly restored. Can you block it? The underworld asks, and I nod. Yes, at least, for this one moment, I can block it. At those words, a ripple of mild surprise echoes from the underworld. This is unexpected. What did you see? I saw the meaning of my entire life. From here on, this swelling emotion will scatter again along with the flow of time. But, in this one moment where I have realized my regression has not been meaningless, I can properly block the single strike of the underworld. From above Indra's net, I begin to recite a mantra. Immortal cultivation is repentant enlightenment. The phenomena extinguishing mantra begins to exert power within the will of impermanence. Now I understand. Until now, the phenomena extinguishing mantra I have been reciting only skimmed the surface of its enlightenment. This is the true meaning, Zhenyi, of the phenomena extinguishing mantra. Like tiny grains of salt gathering to form the sea, it is not a mantra that merely destroys the universe centered on the attraction force gathered in one's palm, nor is it one that observes Mount Sumeru. This phenomena extinguishing mantra is literally an immortal art that amplifies the heart to the utmost. It spreads this surging heart I possess to every being in the universe, and for an instant, imprints supreme enlightenment into their subconscious. That is the phenomena extinguishing mantra. The heart is death. That is why, when the number of heart tribe increases, the world rushes even faster toward the end. The phenomena extinguishing mantra is an immortal art that brings about the end. That is why its true meaning is an immortal art that teaches true heart to all living beings in the world. If one attains the Tao in the morning, they are content to die in the evening. Because, since realizing the Tao means knowing the heart is eternal, dying is not truly death. In other words, the true meaning of the phenomena extinguishing mantra is an immortal art that engraves, with my power, the truth that, the heart is eternal, into the hearts of all beings in the universe, and thus calls forth the end. Flash. I open my eyes wide atop Indra's net. In an instant, the threads of Indra's net begin to warp wildly around me. Countless knots in the net. In other words, countless spirits receive the imprint of my enlightenment, and in that moment, all enlightenment in this entire area becomes filled with mine. Imprinting the enlightenment that the heart is eternal deep into the unconsciousness of all beings in the universe. And becoming allies with all the beings in the universe. This is the true meaning of the phenomena extinguishing mantra. Jiang. I stretch out the power of yin-yang, and 5 elements. No, the power of impermanence gathered from everyone's hearts, toward the strike of the underworld. It happens in an instant. Quacking. The entire world vibrates, and Indra's net, where the underworld and I are seated, begins to tremble wildly. Soon, several parts of the net begin to tear. Though the torn parts are instantly restored. I know that this strike is one every being on Mount Sumeru must have noticed. Araya consciousness gradually unravels, and I sense my consciousness returning below Indra's net, to the reality where we live. Steam rises from my entire body. I feel a numbness in my arm. But this time, I did not die. It wasn't your own skill. The underworld speaks with a smile. You simply realized something overwhelming, and passed that overwhelming emotion onto all your connections. That is why the phenomena extinguishing mantra activated transcendently, beyond its usual limits. Yes, that's right. Because I realized the principle of my regression, and confirmed that the previous timelines were not erased, I received the underworld strike through the overflowing emotion I felt by using the phenomena extinguishing mantra. It isn't my own skill, and if I can't feel such an overwhelming heart again, I won't be able to block another strike of this level. I could enter Araya consciousness again and keep watching that scene, but even if I do, I likely won't be able to feel the same overwhelming emotion I felt the first time. Just a single strike blocked by mere coincidence. Do you think that alone is enough to face the great mountain supreme deity? It is. By what method? Are you going to ask the seat holder of addiction to feed you loads of drugs that even work on true immortals? There is no need for that. Because I calmly speak of the enlightenment I gained this time. As you live life, there are truly so many moments when you feel the world is full of things with overwhelming emotions. Quote. Therefore, I can block the single strike of the great mountain supreme deity. I speak confidently before the underworld, fully recognizing that I have now completely broken free from the bridle of death repeated billions of times. The underworld smiles with the warmest expression I have ever seen. All of you always bring about miracles. And I respond with a smile. There is no need to say, all of you. You have known all along, haven't you? At last, I fully confirm the ominous truth that had been rising within me. Seo Un-yun, the Earthling, simply grew old and died in what I call the zeroth cycle. Then who exactly am I? I am the observer who has taken over his body. The one known by the name Hyuk-sa, He-she. The infinite regression that arbitrarily defies laws possessing absoluteness has never been an authority of an ender in the first place. The moment I recognize this truth, I suppress my essence, that tries madly to erase the personality of Seo Un-yun, and offer a bow to the underworld. Allow me to reintroduce myself, O Great One. I am not an ender. I am the black snake biting its tail. One of the servants who cannot betray the future king. And at the same time, I look directly into the underworld's warm smile and speak. I am the human Seo Un-yun. Chapter 652, The First Light. Ho ho, that's an interesting thing to say. The underworld smiles faintly and asks me. In the end, are you saying that you are Hyuk-sa, or Seo Un-yun? Both. I smile while suppressing my essence. Now I finally understand the truth. Perhaps even the underworld did not know this. Even upon reaching Araya consciousness, this is something only I, who is connected to both the Enders and the Radiant's supreme deity, can know. The truth of the Enders is originally the third law itself. I begin speaking of the truth I've come to know through Araya consciousness, connecting to part of the essence of the Radiant's supreme deity and the Enders. In this world, there exist three absolutes. Fate, history, and the third law. But for some reason, that third law is not only unnamed but also unknown to anyone. That is why I had thought that the third law might be something like the heart, or death, and that the domain of purity, as the extremity of the heart, might in fact be the third law. Just as the imperial venerable is said to be the heavenly venerable of history, I heard that the domain the Salt Sea supreme deity could have reached is called the heavenly venerable of purity, after all. I continue my explanation slowly. But after hearing from Hyeon Mu about the Salt Sea supreme deity, I began to feel something strange. If they were qualified to become a heavenly venerable, why had they not risen to the position of the heavenly venerable of purity? The reason, it was said, was because of us, the Enders. At the same time, Hyeon Mu's plane of soul, and the interdimensional void, carry properties very similar to the domain of purity. All these facts are pointing toward one truth. The domain of purity is literally emptiness. That's right, it is currently empty, and that means there was originally something filling that position. Quote. Now I finally understand. The Enders are beings who are the seven fragments divided from the third absolute. Because the absolute was no longer in its rightful place and instead split into seven Enders, no one could know the name of the third absolute, and no one could become a true immortal through the third pathway. Then the underworld responds. I already knew that. Quote. Pardon, why do you think I humbled myself before you heavenly kings in the first place? Why do you think I treated you all as kings of nations? Unlike us, who divine descent the absolute, you all are the absolute itself. That is why I acknowledge your rank is higher than ours. Quote. At those words, I cough awkwardly. Well, it's a relief that you knew. In any case, along with that truth, I came to understand another one as well. This, indeed, is the truly astounding truth. Is it perhaps because I've awakened to the essence of Hyuk-sa? I came to realize a new truth. The memory from that moment returns faintly. Right after Seo Un-yun was caught in the landslide, their souls were dragged into an unknown, bizarre world. At the same time, the emblem of the black snake biting its tail appeared, and before it, something emerged. That something is none other than the soul of them who died. And, From my point of view, I began to infuse their souls with something. It is fate Ming, but not merely fate, the very essence of life itself was newly bestowed. I do not remember the exact details. But afterward, the Enders fell into ascension path within Mount Sumeru. Then, the history I know unfolded. Kim Young-hoon became a martial artist. Jaeon Myung-hoon became the lightning harbinger and fell into madness. Kang Min-hee failed to withstand the presence of the underworld and went insane, becoming the ghost-guiding Holy Mother. She committed a great massacre and was dragged into the underworld to be taxidermized. But at the very moment the taxidermy succeeded, she perished, in spirit and all, for unknown reasons. Oh Yun-sok, after the death of Azure Tiger Saint, lived in decadence steeped in alcohol, drugs, women, and men, and was eventually killed by Seo Weol. Kim Yeon was eventually hunted down and miserably killed alongside the Mad Lord by Jang Ik. Only Oh Hai Seo seemed to live happily with Seo Weol for a time, but in the final moment, Seo Weol lost in a battle of personality against Blood Yin. Seo Weol perished, and Oh Hai Seo was ripped apart and killed by Blood Yin's hands. Numerous final moments of the Enders flashed before my eyes. And, the final moment of Seo Eun-yun flashes as well. Seo Eun-yun, who died pitifully without accomplishing anything. And I murmured as I watched it unfold. How pitiful, this time as well, and I, from a place beyond time, began to move while looking down upon them. In the order of time, I moved to retrieve them starting from the ones who died first. The death order of the Enders, in the zeroth cycle is as follows. First, Seo Eun-yun died of illness from a cold. Second, Kim Young-hoon seemed to succeed in ascension after piercing through the interdimensional void in a battle against cultivators but died in combat against vestiges. Third, Jaeon Myung-hoon lived rampantly as the lightning harbinger, but was surrounded and killed by the Heaven Tribe Coalition. Fourth, Kim Yeon followed the Mad Lord, and was killed by being hunted by Jang Ik. Fifth, Oh Yun-sok, while doing drugs, was caught in Seo Weol's tainted soul filling the heavens and, while struggling violently in resistance, was killed directly by Seo Weol due to excessive struggle. Sixth, Kang Min-hee, after committing a mass slaughter as the ghost-guiding Holy Mother, was dragged into the deepest hell of the underworld and successfully taxidermized but then suddenly died for an unknown reason. Last, Oh Hai Seo, after Seo Weol's miserable defeat, was torn to pieces by Blood Yin and died like a bug. I moved into the time point of Seo Eun-yun who was the first among them to die. The retrieval method is simple. I dwell within the life granted to them, and reclaim the authority that was bestowed. Thus, I reversed through time, and briefly settled in Seo Eun-yun's body at the moment of his death. Originally, Seo Eun-yun's life and authority should have been retrieved, without issue. That's where the error began. Only now do I understand what my true authority is. The authority of Enders grows stronger with each experience of death. Just like how Oh Hai Seo awakened her true authority after dying hundreds of times at the hands of the great mountain supreme deity despite not realizing her fate. Seo Eun-yun too, upon experiencing his first death, had his true authority activated. The true authority I gained as an Ender. It is Atmagraha Wo-ji, ego clinging. Ego preservation, that is the authority of Seo Eun-yun. To retrieve Seo Eun-yun's authority, I entered his corpse as usual, but was struck by that very authority and became Seo Eun-yun. I struggled in every way to resist Seo Eun-yun's authority, but since filled square was filled square, I could not perfectly resist the authority of an Ender. An impossible miracle occurred, and I became Seo Eun-yun. These are the memories I obtained. Of course, due to my essence resisting, some information is obscured, so I could not recover everything, but the essence of my existence is Hyuk-sa. More precisely, the mantra of Hyuk-sa. The source of infinite regression, what one could call the radiance mantra Kwangming Zhenyan. The moment I entered him, the power of ego preservation that belonged to Seo Eun-yun imprinted his ego onto the power of Hyuk-sa, who traversed space-time to retrieve the Enders. In other words, I am, in the end, Hyuk-sa wearing the face of Seo Eun-yun. Upon hearing my explanation, the heavenly venerable of the underworld smiles and asks. Then, how do you explain that? The underworld points somewhere. In the past, I wouldn't have understood, but having reached Araya consciousness for a brief moment, I immediately read the underworld's intention and grasped the meaning. Are you asking why Hong Fan possesses my authority? That's right. Hong Fan, too, as one of the Enders of this era, possesses the authority of ego preservation. Seo Unyun's authority is called ego preservation, but more precisely, it is something closer to self-preservation. No matter what spacetime one falls into, no matter what illusions or phantasms one experiences, it is the authority to absolutely preserve oneself. That is the authority Hong Fan possesses, and why his cultivation remained intact even when I regressed. Though retaining memory is difficult, his cultivation stage never regressed. It was because Hong Fan used Seo Unyun's authority. Doesn't the Imperial Venerable not already know the answer? I smile faintly and continue. The 10th cycle. No. Perhaps even earlier. Yes, I don't know the exact moment, but perhaps even before I first met Buk Hyunghwa. The personality of Hyuk-saw succeeded in escaping from me. However, leaving behind the radiance mantra that once belonged to them to me, they took the authority of ego preservation that was mine and made a dramatic escape. I am unable to read how that became possible. Nonetheless, Hyuk-saw's personality escaped from Seo Unyun's and entered the belly of a centipede in the great mountain ranges on the western end of the head realm. There, Hyuk-saw clashed with the Ender authority they took with them in an effort to recover their memories. Hyuk-saw's memories and the authority of ego preservation clashed violently. And as a result, Hyuk-saw succeeded in erasing the personality of Seo Unyun, engraved into the authority of ego preservation, but in exchange, they also lost their own memories and became a blank fool. As my regressions continued and life repeated, they matured far beyond other centipedes and grew stronger in accordance with their essence, but without ever knowing their true identity, they only waited endlessly. Until at last, the time arrived. I and the amnesiac Hyuk-saw met. Hyuk-saw instinctively clung to me, and I carried them with me, bestowing upon Hyuk-saw their true name, in order to have something to call them. The main personality of Hyuk-saw, He-she, Hong Fan. That is Hong Fan's true identity. And I fully define my existence and laugh bitterly. In the end, Seo Unyun after the 0th cycle, is nothing more than a personality of the name, Seo Unyun, that clings like a heart demon to the radiance mantra that causes infinite regression. Indeed, I myself am stronger than any heart demon. The reason why back when I was undergoing advancement, the heart heavenly demons who entered my internal world mistook me as a entering nirvana stage heart demon senior. The reason why when I became an immortal beast, I didn't become a human immortal beast, but rather a bizarre immortal beast fused with a snake. It is because the essence of the being known as me is, in the end, a heart demon clinging to the radiance mantra of Hyuk-saw. Is your essence nothing more than a heart demon, then? You could see it that way. Then why did you call yourself the human Seo Unyun? Well, I smile brightly at the underworld's words and completely suppress my essence. I may be nothing more than the leftover of Seo Unyun and Hyuk-saw, but, by receiving hearts, I have truly become human. By inheriting the will of Kim Young-hoon. By engraving the teachings of Cheongman Ryong in my heart. By receiving a kiss from Buk Hyunghwa and the enlightenment of blessings. By confirming Kim Yeon's heart. By carrying on the will of Azure Tiger Saint. By receiving the hearts of Gyu Ryan and Gyu Baek. By receiving the heart of an unknown existence called Ji Yu Ju. By receiving grace from all of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. By receiving the heart of Seo Lee. By receiving the heart of the Wuji religious order. Like so, I've come this far through giving and receiving hearts with countless beings. Even if I was born a heart demon, as long as birth means nothing. I am human, though what I am may have changed slightly from the 0th cycle. I am Seo Unyun. Yes, my origin is just as lowly as that of Seo Weol. Just as Seo Weol was nothing more than an error, born of an Ender's legacy, I too am a lowly being, merely a heart demon originating from the existence called Seo Unyun. However, just as Seo Weol received a heart and died as a person, I, too, have come to this place by endlessly giving and receiving hearts. If I hadn't confirmed my connections with whom I gave and received with after reaching Araya consciousness, the radiance mantra might have gone berserk and erased my personality. But that will not happen. Had Hyuk-saw's personality remained within me and aimed for this moment, perhaps they would have succeeded. But they already attempted to escape in the form of Hong Fan, and became a blank fool, becoming Hong Fan. The radiance mantra, with no personality remaining, can no longer escape my control now that I have fully comprehended Araya consciousness. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Though I was born a mere heart demon, I am one who is now human. I am Seo Unyun, Rui En Xion, manifestation of auspicious grace. At my clear smile, the underworld smiles brightly, then suddenly begins to shake her head. Wrong. Pardon. You figured out everything else, but you didn't know this, did you? Well, I suppose if the personality escaped, you couldn't have read all the memories. What do you mean by that? It's simple. From the beginning, none of you had something like a soul. Quote. Pardon. At the underworld's continuing words, I gape in shock and confusion. Splitting heaven is not just a phenomenon. It is truly a type of mantra. Those below Supreme Deity must not know this, so they are only told it is a splitting heaven phenomenon. But now that your mind has truly reached the realm of a Supreme Deity, I shall tell you. That is, someone beyond the audience chamber, use the splitting heaven mantra to split the third absolute into 7 pieces. Those pieces are you all, the enders. And, someone then takes those shattered absolutes outside and breathes them into beings of another world. Those shattered absolutes are then born in the form of those inhabitants, and eventually, on the same day, at the same time, in the same place, they all meet the end of their fates in that world. Quote. Afterwards, someone retrieves you and scatters you into this world again. That is your true nature. That is the reason why each of you awaken a different authority every time. The form of your authority changes depending on the life you lived in your original world. That being the case, there is no room for anything like your original soul to even exist. None of you ever had a soul or spirit from the beginning. You were simply fragmented absolutes that happened to form personalities. Quote. In short, you never possessed any essence to begin with. That is why Salt Sea despised you, and why when Salt Sea challenged the audience chamber, they did so by fusing the 7 enders of that era into the phenomena extinguishing mantra without hesitation. That is why their disciple, Great Mountain, did not acknowledge you at first. Quote. And, at the underworld's warm words that follow, I shed a single tear. If so, then what does it mean that the lingering thought of Salt Sea acknowledged you as a disciple, and that Great Mountain acknowledged you as a junior brother? You are now, though you received some help from the Radiance Mantra, the first among all enders to have obtained something called a soul hunt on your own. Quote. You were merely a fragment of origin essence with personality, but that personality temporarily moved into the Radiance Mantra. Expelled the original personality, exchanged connections, and awakened a true soul. Now, in this very moment, by fully obtaining Araya consciousness, you have truly become yourself. Looking at the underworld smile, I finally realize who it is that Yang Su Jin referred to as the soul governing immortal I can trust. There is no doubt, I now understand why the underworld is referred to as one of the twin venerables of the Buddhist family, and before the great compassion and great mercy emanating from her, I cannot help but bow. This person before my eyes, holds the same heart as my master. No, perhaps even a greater heart. Therefore, if I trusted my master, then I can trust this person as well. Though I have no concrete evidence, I can tell for sure that this is someone I can trust. Therefore, Seo Eun-yun. You have always been Seo Eun-yun from the beginning. You have never changed. Rather, you are someone who built connections through your own strength and completed yourself. That is who you are. You are, among all enders across generations, a being no different from the first light. Drip, drip, drip. At first, you called yourself a being who can never escape from the future king. Perhaps you believed your essence was insignificant, and that you were just something clinging to the Radiance Mantra. But that is wrong. You completed your soul with your own hands, and now it is the Radiance Mantra that clings beneath you. So, as long as you possess a heart, you can defy the future king however much you want. Just as all beings with a heart in this world have the right to resist fate. I can no longer hold back my tears and begin to cry on the spot. Once again, a surge of emotion rises from my chest, and within that swelling emotion, I completely subdue the Radiance Mantra that rages inside me. Just as the underworld says, I now feel the Radiance Mantra clinging to my soul. Kuriririk. With that, I managed to browse a few more memories of Hong Fan left inside the Radiance Mantra. They concern the true identity of Hong Fan. Quote. I have one question to ask. What is it? The someone who used splitting heaven. The someone who scattered the third absolute across earth. The someone who brought us here, isn't that ultimately the future king? If they are beyond the audience chamber. I mean, who knows? The reason I use someone, rather than the future king, is because I believe Hyuk-Saw and the future king are not the same being. Quote. But I just felt it. The Radiance Mantra, it feels subordinate to the future king. If that is the case, doesn't that essentially mean the one who brought us is the future king? Isn't Hyuk-Saw simply carrying out their command? Quote. The reason you are saying this must be because, while fully seizing the radiance mantra, you saw something. What did you see? At the underworld's question, I speak with a hardened expression. Hugh saw. In other words, I saw the identity of Hong Fan's first life. What is it? Quote. Hong Fan's identity is. As I read the memories retrieved from within the Radiance mantra, I opened my mouth heavily. One of the founders of Radiance Hall. A vague memory flashes before my eyes. 12 cultivators at the level of immortal lords are conversing within the light. Among them, I see a familiar face. A divine spirit with the dignity of an imperial king Diwang leading what appear to be the initial 12 immortal lords of the Radiance 10 heavens, discussing something. That figure wears Hong Fan's face. One of the first Radiance supreme deities. Hong Fan speaks in that scene. The other voices are too muffled to hear clearly, but that one voice comes through loud and clear. From now on, we shall be called, after my epithet, Huxa He She. The one who gave the name, Huxa, to the Radiance supreme deity. That is Hong Fan's true identity. The Imperial Venerable said that the original purpose of Radiance Hall was to keep the Fate Supreme Deity in check, was it not? But is that really the truth? Could it be, that from the beginning, Radiance Hall was nothing more than a puppet of fate? With a foreboding feeling about Hong Fan's identity, I asked the underworld my deepest question. Chapter 653, Heaven's Key 1. I can answer that as well, but not right now. Why not? I have already digested the wisdom of the Imperial Venerable and proven myself. This is not your problem. It is mine. The wisdom regarding what you just asked is sealed away, together with the disgrace of the Heavenly Venerables from long ago. That's. Of course, this isn't truly a problem. The underworld smiles. The 3 ways to keep listening to my story. First, empty your vessel. Second, fully digest my wisdom. And the last, find a medium that can stabilize your memories. I shall now help you find that medium. Pardon, the disgrace of the Heavenly Venerables left behind in the outer sea. The underworld continues speaking with a faint smile. At the same time, something enters my body along with the underworld's smiling eyes. For some reason, I feel as if this is some kind of key. I have granted you the authority to access that ancient force. Grow on your own, venture into the outer sea, and while seeking out the location of Penglai Island, find and bring back the disgrace of the Heavenly Venerables. If you do, I shall recover the memories I sealed myself, and using that ancient force as the medium, I will share the stories I could not tell you. Quote. Understood. I nod and accept the underworld's proposal. It's something I have to do eventually anyway. Moreover, if I go out to the outer sea, I might also learn of the movements of the great mountain supreme deity, which would be a good thing as well. I have received much teaching from the Imperial Venerable. I shall now take my leave. I, too, have enjoyed this moment after so long. Quote. As I bow to the underworld and prepare to leave the deepest depths of the underworld, I suddenly grow curious about something and turn to ask. Quote. I have something I am curious about. What is it? Did the Imperial Venerable already know of the Radiance mantra? I knew of its existence. It endlessly interferes with history, how could I not know? However, I had only deduced its presence until now. The one who proved the reality of the Radiance mantra was Salt Sea. And the one who confirmed its full existence before my eyes was you. At the following words, I flinch in surprise. I said I knew of your regression before, but I only noticed it during your first cycle. At first, I knew only fragments of information, like pieces of a dream. I was only able to properly intervene from your 10th cycle onward. Quote. The 10th cycle. Though it wasn't a question I asked expecting this answer, the underworld's words resolve one of the long-standing doubts I've carried through my life. Quote. I see. Then, is the underworld also aware of what this Radiance mantra, possessing the authority of regression, is creating? I ask, recalling the body of something I had seen. It looked at times like a baby, and at times like an enormous someone. At first, I thought little of it, but the more I recall it, the more questions it raises. Quote. So you have seen it too. That body. Quote. Exclamation mark. Quote. I am aware of it as well. Then that means. However, I cannot say what it is for certain. My vague assumption is, it is the future king. Who is creating it, and the future king's ultimate purpose is related to it. Quote. I see. I let out a quiet breath and nod. Seeing me like this, the underworld asks. You must have made some kind of resolution regarding it. Yes, that is correct. If the power of my regression is one of the steps in completing that, then I want all the more to sever this regression that might aid the future king, the Fate Supreme Deity. Yes, because of today, my goal has become even more resolute, even more clear. And now, a way to achieve that goal has also come into view. I will sever the regression. And I believe I now know how to do it. I will one day fully seize the Radiance Mantra, and pass the mantra on to someone else. To whom do you intend to pass it? Anyone I can trust will do. I could even entrust it to the Imperial Venerable. I have no particular need for it. The wheel already becomes a superior version of your infinite regression the moment one gains awareness of the Radiance Mantra. Then, give it to someone who is going to die. Pardon, the underworld calmly tells me the solution to handling the Radiance Mantra. Grant the Radiance Mantra to someone who is dying and will reincarnate. I have been unable to grasp the true essence of the Radiance Mantra used by Hyuk-Saw, but I was able to detect your essence because you are far lower in rank than Hyuk-Saw. Still, even you, originally being a fragment of absoluteness, possesses considerable rank despite being lower than Hyuk-Saw. Therefore, if you one day give this Radiance Mantra to someone far beneath you just before they die, I will be able to invalidate the Radiance Mantra's power of regression through the wheel's cycle of reincarnation, Lun Zhuan Lun Wei, erasing the Radiance Mantra entirely. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. The principle of the wheel created by me and Salt Sea. In short, I will be replacing regression, Wei Gui, with reincarnation, Hai Shang. One is a force that reverses, the other flows forward. But if the bearer has low enough rank, my side will win. If the owner is Hyuk-Saw or an Ender, erasing it would be difficult, but if you one day master the Radiance Mantra and grant it to a mortal being, then I can surely erase it. At those words, I smile slowly. 1005 lives. At last, at the end of that long, long life, I have finally grasped the perfect starting point to eliminate this regression. Quote. Thank you, very much. The Radiance Mantra itself is one of the cycles of fate that blocks the progress of this world. It is something that has to be destroyed eventually. I am the one who should have erased it, so you need not be overly grateful. Quote. And, I bow once more to the underworld, expressing my gratitude again for the intervention she mentioned earlier. For intervening, in the 10th cycle, truly, thank you. That the underworld could intervene starting from the 10th cycle means one thing. That she, whom I met at the end of the 10th cycle, and the connections of Cheon Sak City. It means I could only meet them because the underworld briefly opened the gate of the underworld. Underworld doesn't explain further, but I faintly sense the vibration echoing from Indra's net and understand the method. I see. From the start, the Black Ghost Valley located in the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain, existed all to properly retrieve the souls from the head realm and the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain that the netherworld cannot properly observe. That is why, although ordinary true immortals cannot interfere in the head realm, the underworld used the remnants of the Black Ghost Valley in the head realm to act as mediums, temporarily influencing the people within. For the goodwill back. Then, truly, I thank you once again. Quote. It was not pure goodwill. There was intention behind it, so no need to thank me. The intention I sense from the underworld is singular. To teach me, a being spawned from the personality of Obsidian's absoluteness, what a true heart is, and to let my soul take root. And, to me, that is no different from grace bestowed. Retrieve the disgrace of the heavenly venerables properly. If you do, I will truly treat you as one of the underworld, and you will come to know the hidden truths of the world. Understood. Then, I shall take my leave. I bow once more to the underworld and exit from the deepest depths of the underworld. Cooing. The door to the deepest depths closes behind me, and I leave the place with a subtle smile. I have encountered a series of confusing events and shocking truths. But in equal measure, I awakened to new truths, and gained a peace of heart I could not obtain before. On top of that, I obtained a Raya consciousness, and I have fully seized triple divinity. Creation, preservation, destruction. In other words, I have seized all will E corresponding to achieving Shang, halting, Zu, breaking Y. If only I can now embody emptiness and blanket the domain of purity, then the 7th stage of manifestation, reaching the realm of Hyeon Mu and Kim Young-hoon wouldn't be just a dream. Wu Wang. I now see the triple divinity of the world much more clearly than before, and I feel them resonate much more clearly with me. I feel that I can handle triple divinity much better than I could before. Yes. Now, at this point, I smile faintly, realizing just how far I have come. I am practically an immortal lord. That's right. Having completely seized triple divinity, I have reached the level of an immortal lord with martial arts alone. However, I don't consider that to be of importance. Rather than such things, the peace of heart I gained this time feels far more significant. My regression was never meaningless. It did not vanish meaninglessly beyond the timeline. In other words, living my best each time, really was the right answer. As I realized that my lives were not meaningless, that they weren't just mental comfort, but actually existed, it became a truth. Because of that, I have gained a peace of heart more solid and powerful than any inner peace I had before. For true immortals, stabilizing the heart is of great importance. When the heart is at peace, one can align their will properly, and since immortal arts ultimately change the world through will, I can now use them far more effectively than before. Truly, thank you for everything. Oh Underworld. After offering deep thanks to the Underworld, I begin making my way out of the deepest depths. And not long after, I see a familiar face. Exclamation mark. You are. It has been a while. Yes, it's been a while. How much time has passed? You are asking how much time has passed. The old man lets out a dry chuckle and answers my question. 1 second. The Imperial Venerable summoned me and commanded that I assist with the distortion of time, so I did. Inside that place, it seemed as though an enormous amount of time accelerated. What happened? That's right. The old man who appeared before me is Young Sung. The immortal treasure of the Heavenly Venerable of Time, the South Polar Ritual Treasure, Young Sung. I smirk at his words and reply. I see. Thanks for saving time, but what happened inside is top secret, so I can't share that with you. Maybe it's because I addressed Young Sung as you, but his eyes narrow. But I don't bother to be polite with him as I used to, because now, I am confident I won't be toyed with even if I face him one-on-one. Having seized triple divinity, even if I were to go up against Yang Su Jin at his peak, I am confident I could tear him apart to death. Arrogant brat. Well, do as you please. Anyway, the Imperial Venerable said this. That you are going to seek out my master's disgrace. Are you unhappy that your master's disgrace will be revealed? No, my master already examined his own flaw once before crossing the outer sea. His memory is complete, so I have nothing to say about that. Rather, I have a favor to ask of you. What is it? There is a high probability that you will use the Salt Sea Returning Dew Jade. If you use the Salt Sea Returning Dew Jade and make contact with my master's disgrace in the outer sea, then tell me what it is. As one who serves him, I still do not know what my master's disgrace is. No matter what it may be, I will endure it. Rather, in order to serve the Lord, I must confront it. Will you accept my request? I think for a moment, then look into Young Sung's eyes and speak. You once trapped me in the bridle of time and tortured me. That was. But you also bestowed grace upon us. Young Sung is someone who directly borrows the power and wisdom of the Heavenly Venerable of Time, so is it because perhaps he, too, perceives regression? He immediately understands what I'm saying. Yes. Did I not permit you my split soul which allowed you to activate the Great Desolate Path? That's right. But, the torture back then was truly painful for me as well. Then. So, let me hit you just once. If I hit you just once, I'll let it go at that. At my words, perhaps sensing something ominous, Young Sung rolls his eyes. But soon after, he nods. Looks like you are planning to test some decisive technique you are confident in. Well, fine, if it's for the Lord, I will accept it as many times as necessary. Strike. Excellent. As I admire Young Sung's loyalty, I draw out a six-sided club from within my body. Young Sung's pupils shake, as if he's seen the six-sided club before, and I take the same stance my master used when beating me. Now that I've obtained triple divinity, I can tell. The fully internalized triple divinity spins, rapidly accelerating and strengthening my consciousness. Though I don't reach Araya consciousness in a single leap, I instantly arrive at the domain of untainted. The world begins to appear as Indra's net. Though it is still difficult to reach Araya consciousness, which maintains form atop Indra's net, in a single go, this is more than enough to beat Young Sung. That is Young Sung's principle. I marvel as I witness the weave of countless principles that form Young Sung. Amazing. The weaving of those principles is astonishingly sophisticated. So that is the result Bong Miang created by devoting their heart and soul. Hey, Wait, Young Sung tries to negotiate something, but I don't break my focus and instead raise the six-sided club. Apologies, Bong Myung. The principles you created are going to get a little dented today. I can only hope Young Sung has some self-repairing ability. Without pause, I swing down the club, striking directly at the principles that make up Young Sung. It's the same method my master used to beat me. Kwang, Young Sung's principle situated above Indra's net takes the hit and crumples. Pishishishik. After witnessing that scene, I return my mind to reality. What I see the moment I return to reality is Young Sung foaming at the mouth and convulsing. Looking down at Young Sung putting on a show, I gaze up at the sky in satisfaction. At last, I've finally caught up, at least partially, to my master's footsteps. I have managed to manifest a portion of your will. Master. I pass by the convulsing Young Sung without concern and make my way to a certain location in the underworld. To the guest chamber where Hong Fan, my immortal treasures, and the ascenders of my middle realm are temporarily residing. Through this opportunity, I have come to gain so much from the underworld. Especially, the phenomena extinguishing mantra and being able to follow in my master's footsteps is a tremendous gain. Above all else, I have now come to understand one of the many secrets of the Great Mountain Supreme Deity. The Corpse Mountain Blood Sea of Great Mountain, so that's what it was. The Corpse Mountain Blood Sea of the Great Mountain Supreme Deity, as the underworld said, isn't merely some sacrificial offering. Despite its monstrous appearance, the Corpse Mountain Blood Sea is, in truth, the result of the Great Mountain Supreme Deity's own repentant enlightenment. As I thought, no matter how many times I think about it, you're insane, senior brother. Cursing the Great Mountain Supreme Deity internally, I steady my breath and open the door to the room where Hong Fan waits. Hong Fan, I'm back. Oh, master, have you returned safely? Hong Fan looks at me and chuckles, and I slowly raise my hand while staring at him. The first Radiance Supreme Deity, Hong Fan. And the true identity of Hyuk Sa, who had been retrieving enders all this time. And now, the one suspected of having taken my fate. Should I kill you right here and now? Master. Immediately after, I tightly close my eyes and swing my arm. Quadududuke. A chilling sound reverberates through the surroundings. Chapter 654. Heaven's Key 2. Kuog. Master. Hong Fan screams and begins to wail. What in the world are you doing? It is because I ripped out my own arm and made it explode. Hong Fan. I appear in front of Hong Fan in my transformation form and ask him. Do you trust me? Of course I do. Why wouldn't I trust Master? I see. As expected. I'm sorry. The reason I deliberately ripped out and burst apart my own arm is because of the emotion of infinite trust that Hong Fan directs toward me. The moment I faced that sincere trust, I became so ashamed of myself that I could not control myself. Hong Fan. I look at him with a firm expression and speak. You once said that as long as we are under the heavens, you would remain loyal, didn't you? Of course. Then I, too, as long as I am under the heavens, will believe in your loyalty and trust you. No matter what Hong Fan's true identity may be, no matter what he may be aiming for. So long as he gives me his trust in this very moment, then I too will give him mine. With that determination, I stand before Hong Fan and swear to believe in him. White Eunuch, are you there? After retrieving Hong Fan, the immortal treasures, and the ascenders, I burn White Eunuch's hair in the void to summon him. At the same time, a pure white shadow seems to rise from beneath me, and a white-faced eunuch appears before me. He's quite a powerful one. Before attaining triple divinity, I could not gauge his strength, but after mastering triple divinity and reaching Araya consciousness, I am now able to measure his power. White Eunuch seems to realize this, as he grins and bows even deeper before me. The distinguished guest has achieved growth. Congratulations. It's nothing. There's something I'd like to ask of you. Would you be willing to listen? Just speak the word. First. At those words, I convey several requests to him. Upon hearing them, White Eunuch nods and speaks. I expected you might ask, so I've made preparations in advance. Please follow me. I follow White Eunuch, and before long, we arrive at one of the hells within the underworld. The hells of the underworld and the paradise. These two are each practically heavenly domains themselves. In the underworld, there are 10 great hells, and there is also a paradise for good people and those who have cleansed their sins. Each hell is its own heavenly domain, and paradise is so vast that it is comparable to the size of multiple heavenly domains merged together, like the heavenly king heavenly domain. This means that the underworld, in reality, holds several heavenly domains within her own Gandhara. It houses worlds the size of Mount Sumeru within. I click my tongue at the vastness of the underworld and arrive at one of the hells that White Eunuch guides me to. There, I see a familiar face. Kurururung, Blade Mountain Hell of the 10 Great Hells. Within one of its blade mountains, golden shaking bird foams at the mouth as her body is skewered by the knives of the mountain. That's right, when Underworld swung her hand toward the heavenly king heavenly domain, both the lightning sacred sea and golden shaking bird that were in that direction were obliterated. I wish to bring golden shaking bird back to the world of living. Would you permit it? The Imperial Venerable strictly forbids the resurrection of the dead, so it is ordinarily not allowed. However, I asked through a clone I sent to the Imperial Venerable, and they said that since this thunder beast was slain by the Imperial Venerable's hand, they will allow its revival as a means of settling its karma. Ooh, if you take her to the Eastern Heaven flower field and rub her body with stolen flowers, her flesh will be restored to life, so I recommend doing so. Thank you, but may I ask something? What is it? I ask a question that I've been wondering about since before. Why do some refer to the Eastern Heaven flower field as the Western Heaven flower field? Which one is the real name? The official name is Eastern Heaven Flower Field because the flower monarch is the Eastern Heavenly Venerable. But some mockingly call it the Western Heaven Flower Field, because the flower monarch clings to the domain of the Imperial Venerable and leeches off the domain of reincarnation. It is a name to tease that old man who mistakes himself for the god of life. Still, the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable is a Heavenly Venerable. Is it really okay to tease him like that? The Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable is inherently kind and without flaws, so everyone teases him often. Even when flowers are stolen from the flower field, he has never once stormed into the underworld in anger, so there is no need to worry about taking some either. Since the Imperial Venerable has declared their protection over the distinguished guest, no governing immortal dares to obstruct distinguished guest's actions. Quote. For some reason, I feel a little sorry for the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable. Understood. Thanks for the advice. Then, I'll take my leave. I extract golden shaking bird's spirit from the Blade Mountain and begin to leave the underworld with it in hand. Yongsu Jin's ring finger, was it protected inside the spirit? I draw out the ring finger left within golden shaking bird's spirit and examine the great desolate path within it. Fortunately, there doesn't seem to be any serious issue with Yongsu Jin's ring finger itself. First, I'll revive golden shaking bird, place her in the great desolate path to secure transportation, then gather my comrades. With that, I bow once toward the deepest depths of the underworld, reveal my great net immortal true body, and leap across dimensions. TS's. After moving to the outskirts of the underworld, I instantly arrive in a new world. It's beautiful. Countless lives are beginning to stir, and flower-shaped light clusters float throughout the space, exuding vitality. For each and every one of these, a fate being granted to those being born. It's when I become briefly entranced by the beauty of the Eastern Heaven flower field and admire its garden. Who goes there? A giant divine spirit resembling an old woman of the human race appears with a furious expression. Are you a thief who came here to dare steal flowers from the flower field? Every single flower in the Eastern Heaven garden is a life force meant to be given to mortal beings. They are not something you can just take and use as tools. I apologize. It's just that I need to revive a deceased from the underworld. Revive a deceased? Lies. The Heavenly Venerable of the underworld would never permit such an insane. It's then, with a flurry of wing beats, a massive heavenly Pegasus wearing a dark red dobok (GI) appears in front of the angry old woman divine spirit. Cooing, they stomp across the dimension of the Eastern Heaven and, crossing their forelegs, plants themselves between me and the old woman with an A. Pururuer. After a snort, they grin and speak. Compose yourself, Samson. A message has arrived from the Lord. This one is indeed under the underworld's protection, and the one he seeks to revive has been granted special resurrection permission from the underworld. What? The underworld permitted the revival of the dead? Unbelievable. That is what I am told. Step aside for now. This person is a distinguished guest, so I shall handle things from here. HMPH. Talking in such a ridiculously outdated tone. Fine, I'll back off for now. Clicking her tongue, the old woman called Samson vanishes, and white-winged heavenly Pegasus speaks again. Ahem. By the way, distinguished guest, feel free to speak casually. Since I remember white-winged heavenly Pegasus's way of speaking from the past life, I give them permission, who seems to be particularly using formal language given the public setting. They seem really uncomfortable. Sure enough, as soon as my words end, white-winged heavenly Pegasus grins and says, "Ah, really? Then I'll speak freely. Man, it's been so long since I talked that way in front of the granny. I thought I was gonna die from the awkwardness. That aside, you seem pretty decent. Wanna have a go with me?" I realize that white-winged heavenly Pegasus has sensed my realm. I see. After reaching Araya consciousness, I can now see White-Wing's realm too. They are a martial artist specialized in the creation aspect of triple divinity, and haven't yet fully attained the destruction aspect. They stand at a slightly lower realm than me. If I fight you, I think I could beat you down. Oh ho, brimming with confidence, huh? Then why don't we give it a shot? Sorry, but I'll have to postpone it for now. A duel with the white-winged heavenly Pegasus would be nice, but now isn't the time. It seems the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable has given permission, but I have to resurrect this brat called Golden Shaking Bird. Would you mind giving me the flowers needed for resurrection? Well, sure, we are ones who live through eternity, so the opportunity will come again someday. Let's see now, Golden Shaking Bird. Ah, it's the Thunder Beast immortal body that lunatic made. White-winged, heavenly Pegasus scowls, as if recalling something unpleasant about Yongsu Jin. Did Yongsu Jin do something to you? He dragged along the fires of the underworld and burned the flowers of the eastern heaven flower field. Because of the atrocities that the bastard committed, half the flower field went up in flames in an instant, and half the living beings of Mount Sumeru that were supposed to be born at that time had their births delayed. Of all times, it was when I went off to challenge Hyeon Mu. And Gramps, that is, Sal Tree Old Man, was in communion with the Southern Heavenly Venerable True Ultimate. That was the biggest problem. The bastard aimed for that timing and left us with no way to respond. They speak while grinding their teeth. I went looking to tear him apart, but when I came to my senses, he already crashed into the emptiness supreme deity in the sun and moon heavenly domain and died. He is the only one I've seen commit such widespread madness other than Hainyang. But even Hainyang, at least, acted out of goodwill and curiosity in their own way. But that bastard, he simply wanted some of the flowers from the eastern heaven flower field, so he used the chaos as a distraction to steal them and cause that atrocity. Quote. Who? Sorry. Seeing the Thunder Beast reminded me of that crazy bastard and got me worked up. That Thunder Beast is also just another victim of his, so there's no need to hate it. Here, flesh restoring flower, blood restoring flower, bone restoring flower, breath restoring flower, soul restoring flower, and others, take them. White-winged heavenly Pegasus hands me the flowers while cursing Yongsu Jin as if they are chewing and spitting him out. I exhale a quiet breath and send the energy of the flowers into Golden Shaking Bird. Along with that, I see Golden Shaking Bird coming back to life. Pasasasa, Golden Shaking Bird's life and body are returning. That's when it happens. Quote. As I thought, this won't do. White-winged heavenly Pegasus twitches their muscles and starts taking a stance. Meeting a strong one like you, I can't just let you go without a proper greeting. Come at me, let's fight. Quote. Looking at white-winged heavenly Pegasus who is seriously taking a stance, I ponder for a moment, then smile as I gauge their strength. It's a different story if they divine descent the power of Sal Tree, but in a regular fight, they are far weaker than the Sword Spear Heavenly Lord. White-winged heavenly Pegasus and I both reveal our true bodies and face each other, taking our stances. Just as we are about to clash. Pot. Above white-winged heavenly Pegasus's head, a brilliant flower crown seems to rise, and their gaze and aura shift dramatically. This brat, I sent them to treat a guest, and here they are trying to start a fight again. Quote. Great net immortal Seo Un Yun greets the heavenly venerable. I bow toward the presence now possessing white-winged heavenly Pegasus. The eastern heavenly venerable, flower monarch. In other words, the Sal Tree heavenly venerable. No need for excessive courtesy. I've heard from the underworld that you're heading to the outer sea soon to uncover my disgrace. Is that true? At that question, I begin to rack my brain. The Sal Tree heavenly venerable doesn't seem like he would openly admit his own disgrace being exposed. It's when I'm wondering how to respond. Quote. Just answer whether it is true or not. Since the underworld is protecting you, I cannot dare touch you anyway. And, given the nature of your ability, even if I block you, you will eventually uncover our disgrace. Quote. I apologize. That is how it turned out. Quote. I see. So you intend to uncover our disgrace. The eyes of the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable possessing Heavenly Pegasus grow complicated. Quote. If the underworld desires it, it will be revealed regardless. Still, it is painful. Even if the memories are gone, merely attempting to recall them pierces my depths with agony. He clutches his chest and exhales. Quote. May I ask you for a favor? What kind of favor is it? Our disgrace, if it is revealed to someone other than the Heavenly Venerables, the structure is such that we immediately regain our memories. So if, at any time, you discover our disgrace and return, please help me lose my memory again. Pardon, please, promise me that. Time, myself, and even Void, whose disgrace runs deepest, none of us can bear that truth. If it were Void, she could face the truth and comfortably repeat suicide, but I cannot repeat suicide after realizing that truth. Because I have family I must take care of in the Eastern Heaven Flower Field. The Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable continues with a gloomy expression. So please, I beg you. Quote. How should I fulfill this request? Looks like you've entered Araya consciousness. Then, like Salt Sea, you should be able to strike directly at principles, correct? That's how it has turned out. One day, fight my Gandhara. I will descend with my true body and fight you. Then, strike my Gandhara with a fatal blow. Strike the principle. If you do so, I will fall into slumber and be able to lose my memory for a while. Quote. Will you do that for me? I look into Sal Tree's eyes. Just what kind of sorrowful truth is it that makes him this way? What on earth is their disgrace? After pondering for a moment, I answer. If it is truly a truth none of you can endure, then I will do so. Quote. Thank you. Possessing white-winged Heavenly Pegasus, the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable nods with a bitter smile and speaks. Since you've come all this way, and since you are also a guest of the underworld, I will give you a gift. The misfortune of Enders is no longer a concern since the underworld has restructured the laws, so there is no need to worry. If there is something you've been curious about, ask. Yes, in that case, since the Great Net-Immortal Realm is governed by the three Heavenly Venerable, I'd like to hear about the formula for the Great Net-Immortal Realm, the detailed cultivation method, and the enlightenment contained within it. And also, I recall the Divine Majesty that Hyeon Mu once showed me. Void Speed, Shu Su. Kim Young-hoon called Hyeon Mu's speed Void Speed, and said the Heavenly Venerables would know the answer. I'd like to ask if you know anything about something called Void Speed. Void Speed. Ah, you mean the realm Hyeon Mu achieved. The Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable nods and speaks. Starting with Void Speed, it is one of the ways to reach Undying Bumie. Undying, you say? Yes, it is a stage above Araya consciousness. It is not quite accurate to call it the ninth consciousness beyond the eight, but it is a state close to that. The Obsidian Devil Heavenly King called it Amara Amoluo. Amara, what is that? Infinity Wu Xian, or you can think of it as the infinite Wu Xian Da. At the mention of infinity, I feel like I'm beginning to understand something. Kim Young-hoon's Golden Great Thousand World, and Hyeon Mu's Eternal Step that manifested Void Speed. Both seem to connect with the concept of infinity. If so, the state that Kim Young-hoon and Hyeon Mu ultimately reached appears to be Amara, the state beyond Araya. Is that the ultimate of martial arts? I don't know the exact details either. I can only speculate, but one thing is certain. Hyeon Mu's Eternal Step seems to be a means of reaching Amara, or Undying. Undying. Ironically, what is presumed to be the ultimate of martial arts bears the name that Hyeon Mu most wishes to escape from. When Hyeon Mu uses Eternal Step, she distorts principles, space-time, and her essence, altering the very principle of her existence. And Void Speed begins from that. From the mouth of the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable, the nature of Void Speed unfolds. After altering the principle of existence into one that absolutely cannot exist in the Saha world, she begins interacting with the world using a property completely opposite to that of ordinary matter in the Saha world. Completely opposite property, using light as a reference point. In the Saha world, the vast majority accelerate as force is applied, approaching the speed of light. And beings of the true immortal realm possess strength that far transcends the standards of the lower realm, allowing them to accelerate even beyond the speed of light with immense and immeasurable force. As the explanation continues, I come to understand just how terrifying Hyeon Mu's Eternity Step truly is. But once Hyeon Mu's eternal step activates, after she twists her own principle and void speed begins, the more infinite power she possesses, the more power she gains, the more her speed slows in reverse, decelerating to, at least, the speed of light. And conversely, the more she loses power, the more her speed accelerates, until, when her power reaches emptiness. Are you saying, her speed reaches infinity? Yes. If Hyeon Mu, through eternal step, turns the power within herself into emptiness for even a moment, then her speed accelerates to infinity. I see now. I understand why Hyeon Mu is called the heavenly venerable of void. A being that infinitely accelerates and grows stronger the more she empties herself. That is the realm Hyeon Mu has awakened. Because she approaches infinity the more she empties herself, she can release power freely for attacks. And because she becomes infinite, she is faster in instantaneous acceleration than even Kim Young-hoon's golden speed heavenly king. And because she is close to true infinity, only something that has reached the state of infinite, like the golden great thousand world, can break it. Truly, it is a power worthy of being called the extreme of destruction. That phenomenon, where one accelerates as they lose power in contradiction to normal principles, is called void speed. Though I heard Hyeon Mu also calls it by another name, shedding. I see, what a terrifying realm. As I click my tongue, the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable also clicks his tongue and continues his explanation of the Heavenly Venerable of Void's void speed. Void speed is also said to have such a trait. If you try to approach it, it grows distant, and if you try to distance yourself, it draws near. And perhaps because of that strange property. And, at his following words, I can't help but flinch in surprise. Void speed is said to be capable of reversing time, and, theoretically, could enable travel to the past. Of course, since the absolutes of fate and history do not allow such a thing, it seems Hyeon Mu cannot actually do it. Pardon. Chapter 655. Heaven's Key 3. If I pass through void speed, is it theoretically possible to go back to the past? Hearing those words, I can't help but recall something. The connection between Hyeon Mu and Hong Fan. Radiance mantra. Void speed, which theoretically makes reversing time possible. Countless facts and hypotheses tangle and twist in my mind. Somehow, I feel like I'm approaching one of the principles behind the Radiance mantra. To seize the Radiance mantra, do I also need to reach void speed, or something equivalent to it? The Radiance mantra belongs to Hyuk-sa. And Hyeon Mu, who appears to be related to Hyuk-sa, possesses enlightenment that theoretically allows the reversal of time. But if time can only be reversed in theory because the absolutes of fate and history do not permit it, what happens if even one of those two absolutes does permit it? I think I can understand why I felt the Radiance mantra seemed partially subordinated to the future king. Perhaps, the Radiance mantra, which allows time reversal only in theory, is subordinated because it received permission from the future king. Many hypotheses come and go in my head, but honestly, I don't think I can confirm any of them as truth. Why did Sal Tree tell me this? Was it just to explain void speed, or was it because he began to perceive regression due to being of heavenly venerable rank, and wanted to inform me a bit? I don't know. Falling into confusion, I decide to set aside that concern for now and begin listening to the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable's explanation on the realm formula for Great Net Immortal. The realm formula for Great Net Immortal realm is simple. It's heavenly spirits Tien Gang and earthly fiends Da Sha. The Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable begins to explain the realm of Great Net Immortal. Of course, generally speaking, there is no need to cultivate both. Heaven immortals cultivate through the way of heavenly spirit. Earth immortals cultivate through the way of earthly fiend. And even after becoming an immortal lord, continuing this heavenly spirit and earthly fiend cultivation is helpful for the supreme deity advancement, so it's good to continue steadily. You should already know up to this point from accessing the Akashic records, correct? Yes. Then there is no need for detailed explanations. What really matters is to let you know what the realm itself is aiming for. Listen carefully. The goal of the Great Net Immortal's realm formula is for you to reach the origin essence yourself. 1. A round sphere appears above the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable's hand. It seems he intends to explain with a simple illusion. Roughly speaking, let's call this an origin essence. He covers the top of the round sphere with a transparent membrane. This origin essence has uniqueness. To preserve its uniqueness, it resides in another dimension. And the wisdom that flows out from this origin essence in another dimension is precisely the immortal Tao we walk. Wu Wang. From the sphere wrapped in a round membrane, something like rays of light begins to flow out like water and fall downward. Going against that current, things that resemble fish or snakes begin to rise from below. Among them, a few powerful ones eventually reach the front of the membrane surrounding the origin essence. Let's say the origin essence is a wish-fulfilling jewel, Sintamani. And these are the mere tiny creatures trying to become dragons. If these things correspond to great net immortal, then once they have almost reached the origin essence, what must they do next? Quote. I stare at the tiny creatures for a moment before speaking. They have to grow their bodies, and become a mugi at the very least. These creatures that resemble snakes, loaches, or carps look far too small to swallow the wish-fulfilling jewel. Yes, that is it. If we assume that those who have successfully cultivated up to the early stage of great net immortal are at the level of these spirit beasts, then after starting their great net immortal cultivation, they must properly enlarge their weight class and hearts to become a mugi aiming to bite the wish-fulfilling jewel. Among the wriggling tiny creatures beneath the sal tree heavenly venerable's hand, one snake grows larger and transforms into the form of an amugi as it approaches the wish-fulfilling jewel. Finally, the amugi that touches the transparent membrane containing the wish-fulfilling jewel directly smashes the membrane with its body. Then, entering the membrane, the amugi finally bites down on the wish-fulfilling jewel. In other words, it succeeds in grasping the origin essence. In the end, just like that, if one becomes an amugi, pierces through the gate, leading to the domain of the origin essence, and overlays one's own domain onto the origin source to directly draw the power of the origin essence, that is precisely the realm of a mortal lord. And when the amugi that bites the wish-fulfilling jewel completely swallows and seizes it, that is the moment it becomes a dragon. In other words, a supreme deity. Pasasasik. Speaking such, the sal tree heavenly venerable erases the illusions with a wave of his hand. In short, the true meaning of the great net immortal realm formula is to prove and grow the rank of oneself in order to reach the origin essence. And even after becoming an immortal lord by reaching the origin essence, one must continue cultivating this realm formula to elevate their rank further in order to fully seize the origin essence. So that is the true purpose pursued by the heavenly spirit and earthly fiend realm formula. That is right. The sal tree heavenly venerable continues to explain the cultivation method for great net immortal in detail. The cultivation method for the realm of great net immortal is as follows. The great net immortal realm formula is for raising one's own rank. Then how is that rank elevated? The method is simple. The more one secures their own self from the world, the higher the rank rises. In other words, it means merging the versions of oneself from various spacetimes into the present version of oneself. Heaven immortals mainly merge with their future selves from different spacetimes. Earth immortals mainly merge with their past selves from different spacetimes. Heaven immortals use fate prophecy to prophesize a certain moment or scene in the future. If that moment or scene is one that judges the world based on their interpretation of the immortal Tao and origin essence that they push forward, then once that scene of prophecy clearly comes to pass, the self who made the prophecy in the past and the self in the moment of its fulfillment overlap. Earth immortals, on the other hand, excavate a version of their past self that matches their interpretation of the immortal Tao and origin essence through history revision or history induction. Once the scene excavated from the past starts to influence reality in any way, the past self overlaps with the present self. To put it simply, whether heaven immortal or earth immortal, each must prophesize or excavate achievements made, or to be made, by their future or past selves, or through prophecy or excavation, raise those achievements to great feats. Then, they overlap the selves from the time of those great feats with their present selves. In truth, this isn't all that different from the prophecy and history revision they've been doing all along. The only difference is that the concept of merging oneself becomes important, though it isn't a major issue. And as you probably already know, the formulas for heavenly spirit and earthly fiend differ in quantity. At the sal tree heavenly venerable's words, I nod. Indeed, the heavenly spirit formula used by heaven immortals is called the 36 heavenly spirits, and they require merging with at least 36 versions of one's future self. The earthly fiend formula used by earth immortals is called the 72 earthly fiends, and they require merging with at least 72 versions of one's past self. Of course, these numbers are only the minimum. The formula for great net immortal can be cultivated infinitely, so it is possible to endlessly prophesize and excavate future and past selves and overlap them. The more one overlaps oneself in this way, the higher one's great net immortal rank rises, and the greater the possibility of approaching the origin essence becomes. Because of this, unlike other realms, the early, mid, late, and grand perfection stages in great net immortal have slightly different meanings. Not yet having cultivated heavenly spirit or earthly fiend marks the early stage. Regardless of how much one has cultivated the formula, simply engaging in the formula marks the mid-stage. Regardless of how much one has cultivated the formula, if one has pierced through the gate, leading to the origin of the immortal Tao, that marks the late stage. And since the formula can be cultivated endlessly even after that, there is no such thing as grand perfection, only the advancement to immortal Lord exists. Alright, did you more or less understand the explanation? Yes, it was a great help. Thank you. I express my gratitude to the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable, grab the dazed golden shaking bird who has finally returned to life, and pay him respect. So the reason why even those who have reached great net immortal are not satisfied and continue to fight endlessly is because of this formula. One could say so. In the end, the formula of great net immortal is about accumulating great feats. Whether one accumulates great feats and creates history, or prophesizes the very fate of accumulating them. In that way, one constantly challenges new feats and seizes the selves when those feats are accomplished to reach the origin essence. In doing so, one completes the self, Zwo, ego. That is the great net immortal formula. Although even small feats can raise one's rank, for the rank to rise significantly, it must be a great feat. So for true immortals who reach great net immortal to move forward, they have no choice but to devise grand schemes and conspiracies, and earnestly create major incidents in Mount Sumeru. This must be the reason why large and small conflicts endlessly erupt in Mount Sumeru. It could be seen as an evil method in a way, and because of that, one could think of the heavenly venerables as the root of all evil. But why is it, rather than seeing this method as wholly evil? The heavenly venerables, they look as though they are screaming. The three heavenly venerables appear to be desperately obsessed with completing the self. For some reason I cannot explain. I get the feeling the heavenly venerables are thrashing about. At this realm, even if one raises their realm, it doesn't result in a side effect of being physically consumed by the heavenly venerables. But instead, as we constantly struggle to achieve great feats, whenever we excavate or accomplish great feats and establish the self, it is said that the very joy of establishing the self is continuously sucked by the heavenly venerables. As if the very foundation that makes up their own selves is unstable. In any case, if raising one's rank through establishing the self is the cultivation method of great net immortal, I realize that the rank I already possess is unexpectedly high. Ah, I see. As I gaze at the realm formula for great net immortal, I come to understand a few things I hadn't grasped until now. When I brought Baekhyunhwa's Norige from the 10th cycle to her in the 12th cycle, and the Norige resonated and fused into one. And when the colorless glass swords overlapped across cycles and rose in rank each time. Those, too, could be seen as part of the great net immortal cultivation. That's right. After regressing more than 1,000 times, creating branches in parallel dimensions and transferring into them, I find that, unknowingly, I've overlapped with more than 1,000 selves, and my rank has risen to an overwhelming degree. If the minimum requirement for heavenly spirit and earthly fiend is a total of 108 times, then just by overlapping through parallel dimensions, I have already cultivated heavenly spirit and earthly fiend 1,005 times. No, come to think of it, this isn't even heavenly spirit and earthly fiend. Since it's not becoming one with past or future selves, but with the me of parallel dimensions. I guess this should be called an entirely different third method. As I consider these various thoughts, I realize that I'm already at the mid-stage of great net immortal. I also come to understand the reason why, since the past life, the heavenly venerable of the underworld continued to pass down the tengwa containing the cultivation of the enders through me into the next cycles. I see. Through me, the heavenly venerable of the underworld has been making the enders undergo great net immortal cultivation. That's why the rank they held rose higher with each cycle. Of course, it still seems to be lacking. It seems I must continue to cultivate both heavenly spirit and earthly fiend through fate and history. Because, I still haven't even caught sight of the origin essence. That is, I haven't even glimpsed something like the door that directly leads to the great mountain supreme deity. Now then, before this fellow becomes bothersome, be on your way. I sincerely hope you keep your promise. The consciousness of the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable, who has revealed all I wished to know, begins to leave the body of white-winged heavenly Pegasus. I bow once more to the Sal Tree Heavenly Venerable, then kick off the dimension. Tukwong. The world seems to flatten for a moment, then in an instant, I return to a familiar world. It is the Sun and Moon Heavenly Domain. This place is. Golden Shaking Bird begins to awaken in my grasp, and I gaze at her while revealing my true body. Hyog. G Great Nay. No, I Immortal Lord. The moment Golden Shaking Bird sees my true form, she recoils in fear and begins to tremble uncontrollably. I look at her for a moment, then extend my hand into the void. Kududaduduk. Attraction force twists as Ham Jin, Yu-Hee, Yo-Hee, and others who are to be the main personalities of my immortal treasures in this cycle appear instantly above my hand. I absorb them into my body, then speak to Golden Shaking Bird. Change into the main soul of the Great Desolate Path. Previously, I had gone through the bother of guiding her to the place where Jaeon Myung-hoon's spirit is, convincing her, and then transforming her into the main soul of the Great Desolate Path, but now, it is different. The Great Desolate Path is my master's immortal treasure. I cannot simply hand it over to the likes of. I can crush both the Great Desolate Path and the Lightning Sacred Sea right now. Is that what you want? Heek. As I exude a terrifying presence and threaten her, Golden Shaking Bird shrinks back in fear, trembling violently. Looking down at her, I continue. I will take you to where your master's traces remain, so stop saying useless words and become the main spirit of the Great Desolate Path. If not, I will kill you. In the end, with a few threats powered by the momentum of Heaven-Earth Great Net, I subdue Golden Shaking Bird and instantly make her the main soul of the Great Desolate Path. Kurururung. Afterward, I enter the Great Desolate Path and head toward the Bearing Tree Heavenly Domain, thinking about my plans from now on. First, let's immediately gather my comrades of this cycle. After that, I must prepare with them to head out to the outer sea where the disgrace of the Heavenly Venerables lies. The Salt Sea Returning Dew Jade is an immortal art that lets one locate coordinates even in the outer sea, but because its activation conditions are quite strict, I absolutely need the help of my comrades. And so, once again, I ride the Great Desolate Path and begin crossing the heavenly domains in search of my comrades. Author's note. You may understand the Great Net Immortal cultivation method as being similar to the enhancement of the colorless glass sword in Norage, or perhaps the cycle reinforcement of Seo Unyun's immortal treasures. To use another work as an analogy, it's similar to the concept of the super dragon that appears in the original piece of a certain Red Dragon-themed fantasy series. Alternatively, you could understand it as something like Jobu Tupaki from the recent Academy Award-winning Everything Everywhere All at Once. The idea is that an ordinary dragon, in order to become a multidimensional transcendent entity like a super dragon, of course, that setting doesn't actually exist in that work, but it's just a metaphor continually overlaps with versions of itself from the future, the past, as in the case of Seo Unyun who appeared this time, parallel dimensions. Among those, the minimum number of overlaps required is 36 for a Heaven Immortal, and 72 for an Earth Immortal.